Roxanne, if you just tell us a little bit about
Yeah, sure.
your company, what your company does, just to give us some context.
Yeah, so I'm the sales director at Mobibase. I'm Roxanne Cretex. And I'm in charge of boosting the performances of our client services by providing the good mix content, the good content mix for the right target. So depending on the countries, the target, we have the right content to really boost the engagement and reduce the churn rate.
Excellent up. Come
Absolutely.
on.
Thank you so much. So my name is Kamal Sharma. I'm the head of international for a company called Hangama. I think the industry knows it pretty well. We've been operating in this space for about 2.5 decades, right? So the old timers of the industry. We largely operate in media and entertainment space. We try and bring in exceptionally pretty well ultra premium products for the consumers to really get entertained and get engaged largely the focus is. And we've been trying to do something unique and best in the industry. And as we move forward, we're going to talk more about the organization. Yeah.
Yep, absolutely. Brilliant. And we've heard from Ashmita and James already. To kick things off, we're going to ask you, first of all, Roxanne, about, because you sort of provide sort of packages of content for different markets. Let's start sort of here in MENA. What are sort of the content types that are really driving the market right now?
Well, in MENA, but also no matter finally the region, we have very high-performing content that are the esports and sports live events, inside or outside TV channels. But that's what really drives a lot of engagement from the users because it finally creates an appointment-based moment. So the users have an habitual behavior to come back to the services to watch, let's say, the weekly live, for example. So it really helps to make them come again and renew the subscription. And also sports and esports have a high emotional impact. So when you get emotion, again, they are more likely to renew the subscription because they want to come back and they are really, they feel a real attachment to the service and the content.
I guess with sport as well, the content sort of updates itself, doesn't it, constantly?
And you have something like, which is segmented, refreshed, high value perception for the content. So we have like the combination of everything that really drives engagement.
Which sort of sports are the most popular, would you say, sort of?
For MENA?
For MENA, yeah.
Well, I would say football, soccer. Football is really like the king of sports. Yeah, really, in so many countries. So yeah, without hesitation, football. And I would say the second one is MMA, mixed martial arts. Yeah, again, this morning at the breakfast buffet, there were two guys with the T-shirts, for example, of Infusion MMA. So that's one of our brands. And yeah, again, you are fun, you are emotionally attached to this kind of category, sports. So half of the work is done just here. Yeah.
Is that sort of international? Because obviously soccer in particular, there's sort of the Premier League, La Liga and Serie A and all of those European ones. But there's also a sort of burgeoning sort of local soccer thing.
Yeah,
So
sure.
is the content for MENA from all of those markets?
Yeah, of course, if you can localize the leagues and so on, of course, it's better. But you even don't really need to do it. Even just international leagues are enough.
You just put it up there and people just
and for
buy
esports,
it.
you have the World Cup, which is this summer in Riyadh. So that's the same. World Cup works everywhere.
So Kamal, you're agreeing there. You do that kind of content. You also do some sort of creative things with
Absolutely.
games as well.
Absolutely. I think for me, as an organization, what I would comment here is that A is a physical gaming, which we literally see on streaming. The other industry which is evolving is esports and an online gaming, right? There's a virtual world out there. People are spending, uh, if I were to comment that, say, out of 10 hours, they spend about more than 3 to 4 hours on playing games. In, I'm a father of a son of 17 years old. I mean, I keep hearing a lot of noise coming in from his room mid in the night, and he's talking to somebody. Sometime he tries to speak in Spanish. I was surprised. I mean, that's the level of engagement it has come to a level, rather than just watching a streaming
Right.
of a normal game. We're now getting into a virtual world. They have a virtual world. Minecrafts of the world, PUBGs of the world. We as an organization, we are also into the same industry where we organize tournaments, right? And there are about 30 players, be it PUBGs of the world or Minecrafts of the world, right? They go online, they meet online. Even if I know you, Paul, probably you never know, I might meet you virtually there, and we both are fighting for something, right? And you get to win some rewards.
That was you.
Oh,
I'll
no,
get
believe
you.
me, there are unique names. One of my, I mean, my colleague in Middle East, I was talking to. Let me name it. I mean, the CTO of Ooredoo Kuwait. I was chatting with him about this case study, and he was saying, I have my son has got a friend in Delhi, and he was playing that, and I was trying to understand the name of this gentleman. He says, actually, he's actually a friend of my son. So that was a and it actually happened. And I asked my son that day. I picked up phone and I checked. Right? He was literally his friend. So imagine the world we are living in. No more a physical world we are living in. We're talking about a virtual world out there. And the opportunity, if I were to comment, I'm talking about a $300 billion industry now, which is going to 2x over the next 2 to 3 years from now.
And what countries are particularly going to drive that in the next year or two, do you think?
Yeah, so I can comment there. I think out of $300 billion, I'm talking about 128 from Asia, largely Middle East, Western part of the world, because if I say Middle East, North Africa, and Asia, largely young consumers. They are pretty between the age of 16 to say 45. While if I compare Western part of the world, not the online gamers, but the people who really would like to stream or people who would like to see actual soccer or NBAs of the world, right? So in my view, the dominance will always be Asian part of the world. Middle East, highly matured, deep pockets, people can afford consoles. While on mobile first consumers, you will find it in Asian part of the world.
Great. And before I come to you, James, I'm going to ask Asmita, because in my mind, all these people, particularly young people who are just gaming all the time, they probably need wellness more than anybody else. So hopefully he's creating your future business for you as they mature. But on the wellness side, because you're right, we've never had anyone, I don't think, speak at any of our telemedia events about wellness, and it's increasingly been sort of the work I've done sort of on the magazine and all the other stuff I do, it's becoming more and more popular. Is that something that's particularly prevalent sort of in India, in Middle East, or is it a global phenomenon?
It is a global phenomenon, and honestly, with the time, it's just been about a month and a half that we've launched in, and we've got our major audience coming in from the European countries. And predominantly, I think if we're talking about the wellness domain, it's very difficult for people to actually go out and speak about it. It's very easy to be isolated and playing a game, but it's very difficult to actually go out and talk about there is an issue that I have, whether it's physical or mental, anything. So at the end of the day, it is a global phenomena, and somewhere or the other, as users, we still are not very much familiar with how and where to actually go out for it. Everybody cannot reach out to a counselor. Everybody cannot really, for whatever means they have. It's not easy for people to approach to the other person. So domains like ours would, kind of be their secret space where they could vent out. And I think I would honestly say a lot more people to explore this domain only for the fact that this is still an untouched market and is of a high demand. And there are a lot of consumers, especially when I talk about the Gen Zs and the millennials, we are getting isolated. There's more social media, but there's less of interaction. So somewhere or the other, there is turbulence somewhere. And when we approach it in the right direction, there is a huge potential and there is a huge market there. So, and I think we have consumers of every age for this. And in the content fraternity, I would honestly say that there is a lot to explore, and there's a really untapped market here, which we should explore together.
Great stuff.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So I'd like to add a point here. I think on the same domain what Ashmita is talking about, white-collared people like us, even we don't talk about it, right? That whether we are mentally fit or not, right? Hardly in any of the forum where we talk, I think we don't accept that I'm mentally ill today, right? So I think this is a domain, I think I'm sure, even I second that, there is a lot of potential. And that's where I think how Ashmita ended the conversation, stating that there's no competitor.
And I would add too, it's nice that mental health was sort of two words nobody wanted to use recently. So it's out in the open and it's real. And social media is a big challenge for kids, and mine are through it to some degree. But I'm glad to see this going on, because it really is. It should be discussed. It should be opened up. It's okay to talk about this stuff, right? It's important.
Yeah, no, excellent.
Thank you.
So looking more generally at the market outside of wellness, it's very competitive, isn't it? The content market.
The world's competitive.
Well, the world is competitive, but you know, indulge me. It's quite a cutthroat market now. There's such a lot of content, such a lot of services. How do you sort of keep it fresh? How do you keep people coming back? I mean, you, James, have the big name brands, but even they probably have to keep it fresh. So how do you keep it?
So we have a bunch of Disney games, so that works to our favor. And there's new games that have been coming in, but that is a challenge, right? I mean, some of the stuff gets older, or some of the stuff is just competing with new products on the marketplace. So we're looking at ways of packaging it, doing things, creating new services. We've built. So we're not just onboarding games now. We have services, and we can build our own channels to push product in a way that's TikTok-ish. We call it Quick Fun. It's our own little service, but we're using what's the word I'm looking for? The way people use apps. We're putting that into our services that we build. Kind of like how I used to build games. If I was building a fighting game, I'll just take the Tekken controls and stick them in there, because I'm not going to try to retrain somebody.
Right.
It's how you address those people. Make it easy and seamless for them to use. So that's one way we do it. But it's always about new content, fresh content. So we're looking for that as well too. And I'm knocking on the Fox stuff for Disney, because they have The Simpsons, and who knows,
Yeah.
I mean, give me something new. That's the mantra, right?
So obviously that's different kinds of content. You do Disney, therefore you might be able to do The Simpsons, but the actual game that you then create around The Simpsons, how different does that have to be to a sort of Disney game? Does the actual gameplay have to be different as well?
So obviously, we're talking the HTML5 games we make. The budgets aren't that big, so we're not talking multiplayer or online play. That kind of thing. It's more single player, right? So the question is, will those feature sets work in a VOS world, right? Because if games, so take APKs or Android games, those games get updated all the time. If I have to update that every single time in the MVOS world, it's just not going to work, right? Yeah. So we come across that early on. So that's part of our challenge. So we kind of focus on those offline games, those single player experiences. So we're limited, but there's other markets out there where we'll be able to do that. Just in MVOS, it's a little harder to manage. So we do what we can do, right?
Right, absolutely.
Yeah, so again,
come on.
I'll come in. Okay, the toughest question that I keep hearing in most of the forum, that when we talk about HTML5 browsing-based game, whether will it continue forever, given the fact that we're talking about online gamers, people becoming smart, the core gamers, whether people would love to continue to browse the game, the HTML5? The answer is yes. Why? There's a fatigue of downloading an application every time.
Right.
If there's a new service being introduced, we say, hey, I have an application for Android or Apple Store. But we forget one thing, that people really don't want to carry more than 8 or 9 applications. Even if you have it on your phone, somewhere or the other you will decide to remove it completely, right? And that's where...
Or just never use it.
Or never use it.
Isn't it? It just sits there.
That's where the HTML5 game comes into the play. And that's where we strongly believe. We work with, we're partners, by the way. So we on a daily basis, we track the consumption which is happening on browsing, right? That's insane. I mean, people are consuming on browsing based rather than just
Yeah.
opening for an application.
And we shifted about 5 years ago because I was chasing Android games for the first 4 years at TELEMEDIA, and Bertold goes, "We need H5 games." I'm like, "Why?" Well, they're quick to play. They're online. They're immediately playable.
Right.
Plus, they work on Android and iOS phones. So you've now doubled
Absolutely.
your marketplace. You doubled your marketplace. So
Absolutely.
that's the other piece that goes in.
And moreover, I mean, just to adding to what you said, we're talking about Web 3.0 now, right? People have used 2.0, 2.5. Now we're talking about Web 3.0, where the browsing will come into play. Probably you'll talk about tokenization and how do we gratify a consumer. So all of that will come into play over next 1 or 2 to 3 years from now.
I think as well with these sort of games, it's like you do with the discovery. It's more like TikTok. It's much easier for consumers to look at it, find what they want, play it. It's just a more straightforward experience.
Well, and
isn't
the
it?
other thing too we're looking into is AI. So I'm looking at some of my friends who are building stuff.
Absolutely.
Just tools. So putting the tools in the hands of the designer and getting, you know what I mean? So here we go. So probably a tangent here, but yeah.
Yeah,
I was going to come
let
to.
me take the lead. I mean, when you mention AI, I think AI is the most abused word wherever we talk. Anything and everything which is automated, people start saying it is AI powered.
Yeah.
Let's accept it, right? But what we're trying to bring in is extremely AI powered, and something we will definitely announce as we move forward.
Yeah, I was going to come to AI because it's sort of AI works across the content creation and the marketing and
It's everywhere.
everything. So we'll touch on AI towards the end. But what I wanted to sort of more look at was certainly Hungama. You showed me in Barcelona. I think you've sort of combined gaming and music, which I thought was an interesting idea to bring sort of two very popular kinds of content together into one thing. Can you just tell us a little bit about
Absolutely.
that?
And thank you for bringing that up. So there's a category called rhythm-based game, right? And this is a very niche segment what we've tried doing it, right? We tried merging music and game put together and named it as rhythm, right? There are companies out there in the market. In terms of the scale, the market size is about $8 to $10 billion as on today, because people hardly know about it, right? And we are one of the few companies who've taken this initiative and introduced our product called Desi Beats, what we are renaming it as Safari Beats in various markets, including African continent. We made it live 10 days back, and we are sitting at about 100,000 consumers in just 1 week. That's the response we've received from Africa market. So what it does, you actually are enjoying listening to a music. While you listen to the music, you tap the tile and do a gamification. You do a game experience on real time, right? So this is something which we have done uniquely well, and consumers are really enjoying it. The consumption rate, if I were to comment, with a legacy VAS services, what we call it as a traditional VAS, versus the services that we have introduced, there is a return on the applications about 80%, right? So that's the level of engagement we've tried bringing in. And as we move forward, we are trying to localize it for various markets, including Southeast Asia. We recently have got license in Vietnam for gamers, and obviously we will be sharing the results as we move forward.
Yeah, no, it's good. There's a video on our website of you demonstrating it. It's an interesting. What I found interesting about it is this combination of.
Always posing for the camera.
I would again. No, so again, let me add more to what I was mentioning. And when I was supporting Ashmita's conversation about mental health, see, we need to understand, being a white-collar people, just take a pause and think about it. One of the bad meeting you had in your board, or probably a bad review you had with your leadership, right? What will you do if you're sitting in a restroom? You simply take out your phone and start playing game, right? Nobody discussed that, but literally, I've been into conversation. I've personally captured the VOC, what I call it as voice of customer, and these customers are white-labeled professionals, and they started playing Desi Beats. That's something which de-stress yourself from the world which is outside the restroom, and you're wearing the same hat of a professional or a white-collar people, but in restroom you're actually talking to somebody as Safaricom games, and you're listening, you're playing, and you're into it. That's your me time. So that's the level of engagement we're trying to bring in.
Yeah, so I was wondering about with the wellness idea.
Exactly.
As to
Actually, it's a wellness product.
where wellness might fit in with other kinds of content, whether
Absolutely.
it's something you could like either build some sort of gamification into the wellness apps, or whether the wellness apps can work with people like Hungama and
I think
Perpetuum?
music is a game changer for any sort of wellness. So we have incorporated create your own music as well, because today when we see there are a lot of people who like to dance on their own beats. So curate your own music is something that we've already put in. We also have things like a lot of wellness tunes in place with us. So as I said, it's every consumer at the end of the day requires a one-stop solution. We are sick and tired of having zillions of applications in our phone where we do not kind of end up using it. So we try to curate that app which has music, not a competition, but music. We have that in store. We have a couple of games that we've already tied up with, but they're not going to be games which are going to be destructive, but they are, mind-building games is something that we try to incorporate where again, very curated content is what we're trying to cater to the world. And when we're reaching out to either people who are above 45, they have a certain kind of a mindset. They have very less time. So in that 5 minute, we would prefer somebody just to do a quick 5 minutes breathe and just calm down and then go back to their workspace, rather than just sitting on a mobile and having a 5 minute game session in which just kind of troubles them. Oh shit, I just lost. So we're trying to build up that space where content becomes the king, but somewhere or the other just calms us down for the next step of our life. That's what we're trying
I've
to
got some
cater.
Zen games for you. I can show you. We can add it to it.
Perfect.
Very, very,
We
very
shall.
Zen.
We shall. We shall.
Zen games. That sounds good. The thing that always put me off games.
Nothing destructive.
Yeah,
The
perfect.
thing that puts me off games is that, unlike everything else in life, they get more difficult the more you do them, whereas everything else gets easier. But I find that very stressful. But that's just me. So, how do we sort of monetize all these things? So Roxanne, how do you sort of monetize the services, the esports? And that? Is it subscriptions still, or is it one-off payments? And what sort of payment technologies do you see as like the main ones currently, and where's that going?
Well, it's usually weekly subscription with DCB, but we also have clients. In fact, we have clients, of course, in the VAS industry, but we also sell the content on OTT, cable, satellite. We have all of the medias, even air flight, out of home. So, VAS industry is just, let's say, a small part of our business. We have our own services, so again, on weekly and monthly subscription, directly with telcos, DCB. And some of our clients have also credit card services and even fast TV channels, so with ads.
So all those channels. So looking at the subscription side of things, I guess sports in particular, but esports also, they lend themselves to being subscribed to because they're, like I said before, the content changes every week. There's another match, there's another result. Is that what helps sort of do that? People are happy to subscribe because they keep getting changing content?
Yeah. Well, if you want user engagement, if you want them to also come back, so of course you have to refresh the content. You have to give them content that they perceive as value content. This perception is extremely important, because you could give the best content you want to a target if it's not well segmented, if it's not what fits really with the need of this target. Even again, the best content, you won't have the performance you're looking for. So it's coming back to the basic. You are
got to have good content.
Yeah, you are creating a value-added service. I think it's something that we all too often forget.
Yeah.
We just want, to pour a lot of budget in the marketing to have flashy banners and great campaigns, and you put so much money inside of that, and you just forget that content is not just, the cherry on top. That's the cake.
Yeah.
That's
I
that's
agree.
the engine. So again, well segmented, well chosen, well targeted content, refresh, high perception of the value from your target user, and
Does what passes as high value content to the consumers, is that different in different countries? Do you have to different countries value different things, and how do you sort of understand that?
Yeah, well, we analyze a lot the data from our clients when they want to share them, of course. And again, that's the same. Yeah, for example, for Indonesia, we helped one of our clients to launch a service in Indonesia, and they wanted badminton because they knew that badminton is really a key sport there. Well, there, that's the key content, and if you just suggest badminton in France, for example, it won't match. So
so you have to understand each market very specifically.
To analyze everything, to have a lot of data, and to understand what kind of content mix will work, will perform well in what region. That's a big work.
Do you have to do the same with wellness?
Yes, of course. I mean, every country or every region specifically will have their own things, So we did our groundwork, we did our research for about good 2.5 years. When we're catering to countries like, the European countries or the Southeast Asian country, everybody has a different demand. And, to accumulate all of that in one and still keep our target audience intact, we had to play a lot of content targeted to them. Localization came into picture, and of course the key areas, probably somewhere sound healing works, somewhere astrology is on a high. So we had to kind of give that mix to the users. And of course, as Roxanne mentioned, that you should really know your customer well, and if you don't know that, you're just going out in the open and you're not giving it what the consumers really want. But speak their language, give the content that they really require, and play around with it. I mean, at the end of the day, we're marketers sitting here, and we know how to, kind of put that flash across to the users. But play it well, and I think today consumers are very intelligent in when they're being cheated and when they're being, used across for a particular content type. So just don't misuse the forums, and just give the consumers what they really require.
How do you monetize your service? How do people pay? And
There is a subscription model for the app, of course, and there is subscription model. There are a lot of one-on-one consultations that people are coming across for. And there are a lot of people who are looking up to be a podcaster. So this particular app also kind of makes people have that audience right for them, and becoming a podcaster becomes easy. But when it comes to monetizing, at the moment, we're doing it with a subscription model and with one-on-one consultancy as of now.
Okay, so the people pay a one-off fee for the consultations.
Yes.
I see. That makes a lot of sense. So Kamal, how do you monetize the rhythm games?
See, largely, there are two models that we work on. One is an ad-based model. People with a limited feature, they can enjoy the services, but they got to see the ads and redeem, those credits, I would say, in getting to the next level and unlock the list of songs which we offer. Typically, music consumption is literally expensive in the market. But we try to procure the best content, depending upon the location and region we're talking about. That's one model. The second is largely on direct carrier billing, which is subscription model. It could be daily, weekly, monthly, and there are advanced rental packs as well. On top of that, we're also looking at probably keeping an eye on the trend which is happening, moving away from carrier billing, which is beyond telco. I'm opening up a larger conversation, but that's how we monitor our numbers. So one is a DCB, second is wallet, or probably there are other alternate channels. Like I can quote, African region, M-Pesa dominates, right? That's a wallet run by Safaricom. We talk about Indonesia, Dana is one of the largest wallets there. We talk about Cambodia's of the world, There are wallets coming into play where telcos or regulators are probably making it really difficult for these kind of businesses in monetizing. So we have the know-how. We are running one step ahead of the time is what I would put it as an organization here.
Great stuff. James, you mentioned in your presentation, you touched on piracy.
Yep.
that's a big deal in the content market.
Well-
I think you guys particularly suffer from it because of the brands you work with. What could be done about it, do you think?
Well, I mean, so there's been piracy since there was entertainment, I suppose. When I was at Disney 30 years ago, the VHS cassettes were being, duplicated in other markets and sold. It's a conscious effort to work with, people who and do your diligence to make sure that you have, appropriate contacts who have the content, right? It's easy to get to find somebody who has it because there's, like I said, there's one entity, Fourth Street Games, that just pushes this stuff out there. And I don't know who they're getting it to or if there's an agent in between. But if the price is ridiculously low, then something's funny. But if you're not checking with the agent you're licensing from, if there's no proof that they're working with Disney, and there's like 2 or 3 people who really work with Disney, so you really have just a few choices. So if you're not vetting and not doing the diligence to make sure that you're working with somebody who's legit, I don't know. Other than the industry, because we talked about this last year,
Absolutely.
I think Sid
We
said
did,
it.
yeah.
It's about making sure we do this the right way, because you start undercutting price and you start undercutting, these brands. They're gonna say, "What are you doing?" They're gonna pull it.
Right.
And I don't want that. Nobody wants that. And it's there. I see it, but it's not just Disney. I mean, I
All
saw
across.
Rovio's games up
Yeah.
on 4th Street. I called up Rovio. I said, "Your games are here."
Correct.
So the minute I see it, I just point it out. But it's kind of like whack-a-mole, right? So I think it's up to the people in the MVOS space to really do the diligence and say, hey, this is a legit source. If you don't know, ask me. I do. I mean, I'll be that guy. I'll point out.
You'll
the guy.
do that.
I'm happy
Yeah,
to, because it just hurts everybody.
Yeah, right.
How do people like Moby Base and I can't remember the
Usher.
name. That's it. How do you stop people ripping your content off? How do you sort of make sure people aren't sort of taking what you've got and reselling it elsewhere?
Well, how we protect, you mean the content?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you have some invisible watermarks. You have DRM tools.
Yeah.
You have many technologies. I'm not really very educated to that. I have my team for that, but yeah, you have tools that really protect. And of course, when you work in DCB, for example, the telcos protect also your content. And you finally also can choose clients able also to protect your content when you sell the content for their service. So yeah, a lot of tools available. Yeah.
Sorry, Paul, just to
Yes.
be honest, of course, there are tools, but the brutal truth is your content still goes away. I mean, I've been in the digital industry for a long time now, but protection of content is difficult. I mean, somebody or the other will take it away. They just kind of put in a few things here and there, and your content is all over. So protection, I think, if your content is still a myth somewhere or the other, but yes, tools do help us, kind of monitor it. But at the end of the day, not 100% reliable. That's what my learning is. And just for example, that we have a lot of in our monetization of the app, we are kind of doing a B2B sector as well. We are giving it across to corporates for their the employees there. So once things go out in open and it's there with everybody, it's difficult. You can't, sit and monetize. You can control when it's a little limited, but when it goes out loud, like, Disney, for example, there's zillions of things all over floating across. Everything does not have that right to, get it. So I think somewhere or the other, content protection is still a myth, even when we have zillions of tools. But I don't think that's something which is happening.
You can only do what you can do.
Yeah, at the end of the day, it's the digital space. Everybody is doing what they have to do.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it's about when you onboard it. You've got to make sure when you onboard, you're
Right.
bringing in the right stuff.
Yeah.
Because AI is going to change it. I mean, the Disney games I'm referring to, some of these are 10 years old, and they were just sitting on a website. Somebody pulled them down. So I get it. It's been there for a long time, and it happens.
Right.
Right.
And there's it's not just pirated. It's just content that's been made that wasn't even approved by Disney. It's out there. That's out there
Yeah.
too. So you're right. You're never going to stop it. But
Yeah.
at some point, it's about the business saying, "Hey, where did that come from? I'm onboarding
Right.
this. What am I doing?
What?
How am I vetting it? What's
What?
the diligence?
What?
We can't do that.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah. but we're not going to stop it.
Yeah, there we go.
Something you can do.
Try to
also.
control.
Lower the better.
Yeah.
So you mentioned AI there. I mean, as we mentioned AI earlier on. Is AI going to make that sort of problem worse? Like it's going to, going to create aped content, even if it's not your content. They're going to essentially use the IP to make something.
I had a buddy. He even outlined what he did. He made this 5-minute video, totally by himself. Threw it on LinkedIn. I'm like, dude, let's talk, right? And I'm like, I'm fired up about it. I mean, I see the positive to it because I would do something with it legitimately, right? Now, that doesn't mean everyone's going to be that way.
Right.
But yeah, it opens up a whole, Pandora's box as we move forward with this stuff. But I tend to look at the positive, and I think that there's opportunities there for all kinds of things.
Yeah.
So that's how I'm going to embrace it.
Yeah.
It's a positive thing. And it's not going to take away everybody's job either, as they say.
Well, let's look at the positives then.
Yeah.
What are some of the positives of using AI?
I think the question started with the statement that will AI, help, or will it be a disaster?
Yeah.
I mean, I can quote a great example. If you simply do some research on ChatGPTs of the world or OpenAIs, there are tools available, and ask for a data. And if you challenge the data, literally the response will be, "Oh, I'm sorry. Let me recheck and correct the data." So the reliability is the biggest issue. What AI can help us structure our operations better. It can help us frame it better, sort of help recommend something which is relevant to the consumers. But again, where there is a data, you need to apply your data rather than just being reliant on AI. So AI will be disaster if you're relying on data, but the framework, structure, beat.
Yeah, I think Kamal is absolutely right. It can be a support system, but not something which is going to drive anything. So yeah, as a support, it was Google first, and now it's the AI for us. So it's just a support system, but at the end of the day, we need to drive things ourselves.
What about in terms of creating content, though?
In terms of creating content, I think AI is taken over a lot of content market, but again, as I said, it can be a support system. Even when it comes to any domain that we've been working with, it can be a support system, but not your vision at the end of the day. It can't really drive things for you. It can be a supporting factor, not taking in anybody's jobs, whether content writer or curators or anybody of that sort, but just a support system, not somebody, even people that we look at today, there are a lot of content curators which are using AI openly and very happily saying about it. But at the end of the day, as Kamal rightly mentioned, the data game is a bad thing as of now for AI. So I think a support system perfect, but not taking away the glory of a human brain at the end of it.
Yeah.
I see AI as an amazing opportunity if you have distribution to create content and get it out there. And there's a number of different verticals out there to do that in, and not just our space, but as we look at YouTube playables and other things, it's about putting tools in the hands of the creative folks to build stuff. Right. So with Mozart, want a whole accompaniment of musicians, but would he just want to do it and set it up as well? You know what I mean? It's like, say, I don't have to deal with that cello player in the back who's got an attitude. No, it's about emboldening people to do things that I see is a game changer, because if you have distribution, I always said content is king. I'm in the content business.
Correct.
Distribution is a very strong queen.
Right.
So they're symbiotically related. So I see it as a huge opportunity to do stuff,
No doubt.
not just with brands, but we can create stuff, right? And that's what we're going to look towards as we go forward, right? Because it's an opportunity.
Yeah, the most disturbing thing I think about it is Mark Zuckerberg 2 weeks ago was talking about this thing that Facebook's going to do called infinite ads. Where it's going to use AI to use the data essentially in a sort of retail media advertising way, and use that to create sort of essentially individual adverts to individual people, potentially completely upending the advertising industry, particularly the creative side of the advertising industry. And it did make me think that that has huge implications for marketing of our services and everything else out there. But equally, the same idea could apply to creating content. Yeah. That you need someone like Facebook comes along, takes its consumer data and goes, right, the kind of game you want is this, and they make it for you, which surely is a worrying and destructive possibility. So as a sort of end point to this end on a low, am I worrying unnecessarily about that?
Well, if I have to watch ads, I want to watch ads I want to watch.
Yeah, but
I guess.
But this,
I mean,
but this was
you
more
know,
taking that idea and turning it into using that data to create content that you want, not just ads, but actual content that you would want on an individual basis using AI.
if you gave that tool to my kids when they were 7 to create their own games, they'd go crazy. So that generation's out there that's going to embrace it, and we're going to look like dinosaurs in 10 years, right? Because they've taken it and run, and then our jobs, right? So I embrace all that stuff. I think it's great.
Anyone else got any views?
Yeah, I think just embrace the challenge. I think James is absolutely right. Just embrace it, and yeah, you can't change things, so you just kind of run the race and see how far do you run.
It feels better when you embrace it. You know?
Spoken like a true wellness expert. So that's nice and calm. Are there any questions from the audience for all?
Just for the AI.
Sorry,
Just
yes.
for the AI.
Go, of course.
I just want to add that you can also create things automatically, like subtitles, which is very important to localize your content, so you can really automate it, these kind of things. Of course, you will need to pair it with a human, because you have to be sure that it's relevant, there is no legal, let's say, risk, that it's, how to say, editorially interesting, but you can really create snackable content like a recap of matches, mini highlights. You can really automate things like that. Of course, you have to be sure that you don't put too much content generated by AI in your service, because it can feel a bit generic, repetitive. But it's really something that is strategically and growing. They has a growing role, so it's still maturing. So you can do today a lot of things, but there is a real potential here. We also analyze that you can rotate the content based on the behavior of the user to show him the content that fits better his interest. So yeah, AI, we are working with it. We know that there is a real potential with it. So yeah, I will say let's just wait some months, years, and you will see that there is a big potential.
Since we've touched upon this point, I think I'd like to quote one more example. So I've spent about 2 weeks in Southeast Asia. It's a marathon out there. I didn't see my wife for about 2 weeks, almost. There was one use case which one of the CXOs of a telco was discussing with us, apparently over the last 2 weeks. China and Japan gives you a service to rent a girl if you're traveling to these part of the world, right? And there are official websites, apps where you can register yourself, create a profile, and you can specifically mention that this is a set of girlfriend or a boyfriend I need, and you can rent a girl, right? Now what they're doing it smartly using AI, they create a virtual profile of the same girlfriend, which is what they call it as R2R, real to robot. Now that is going reverse. Now the real to robot is actually robot to real is going to happen now, and I'll tell you how. If I register as a consumer and I need a girlfriend for 2 days, for example, I create a virtual avatar of the girlfriend that I need, and the system, the AI, will help you actually hunt for a real girlfriend and give you a recommendation that you can actually reach out to this girl. This is a similar profile, and now do what you want. So people are utilizing AI on those kind of model is something that is going to happen in Southeast Asia. I'm not sure about other part of the world, but that is something which is happening out there.
We're straight into a dark place there. I think, I think all those people on the road should be using wellness apps.
I mentioned I didn't meet my wife for 2 weeks.
Yeah, no, I get it.
That was like a statutory warning before.
But I think there is going to be a lot of that kind of thing on there as well. Are there any questions from the audience about hiring a girlfriend or any other topics to do with content? Excellent. Well, that's very good. Well, thank you very much, panel, for that. That was very interesting.
Thank you.